Over 80% of viewers here on GlobeTrotting are not subscribed, so if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for much more analysis to come. Now, retirement in our industry is always a moment, it must be said, for the airline. It symbolizes a landmark decision that sees the departure of a long-standing type in favor of the arrival of, say, another in the process for most airlines that they like to call streamlining. The biggest casualty of recent years has been four-engined planes. Nowadays, they're not efficient and out of favor with airlines that have rapidly decided to retire the said aircraft types from the skies. China Southern last month was the latest airline to pull the plug on the world's largest passenger plane, the A380. From Airbus. This aircraft on the chopping board was put in a move that was, while not unexpected in itself, it definitely sent a message that even in a market where the A380 was set up successfully or potentially to succeed, according to analysts at the beginning of its life, it still had many issues that China Southern in this case were unable to overcome. Why did China Southern retire the A380? There are many reasons. To begin with though, we have to go back to the beginning of this calendar year, and when China Southern announced they would be withdrawing the aircraft. But to be completely honest, we have to head back even further than that to get to the bottom of this saga, to when the A380 was initially introduced with the airline, alongside when they committed for the type. The A380 being a high-capacity plane seemed like in the mid-2000s a very appropriate choice regarding operations in China and Asia to both a domestic and also international market. With demand skyrocketing, having these larger aircraft in their books, analysts believed would be hugely beneficial. China Southern did announce orders for 5 of the aircraft, however after it was subsequently delivered, there was really a downward spiral experienced with the said plane. Immediately after taking delivery, the airline said they were losing tens of millions by operating the aircraft. Why? This came down to multiple contributing factors. However, inside the airline, many believe that they didn't understand the plane. Or maybe the aircraft didn't understand the airline. China Southern and their deployment of the type was largely frowned upon by the masses, especially with it so frequently featuring on domestic services. While touted as a type that would bring more extensive benefits over other aircraft to their markets, it seemed that once delivered, instead, it was actually quite the opposite. Let's move inside the cabin now. The A380 makes a lot of money on the upper deck and in the upper classes. From luxurious first-class suites to stunning business classes. I'm sure you've all had the opportunity to see these in pictures, images, or maybe you're one of the lucky few that has had the opportunity also to fly on them. These can go for well over 10,000 one way, an incredible fee that'll truly never seem worth it to me. However, unlike most markets, most people that choose to book a flight on China Southern were not after this luxurious product, and instead prefer to fly economy. So what did this result in? Well, it resulted in an A380 product that from China Southern was not really up to par with many other airlines. Take Air France. They're always going to be another perfect example in my opinion when discussing inside the cabin and using it to your advantage. They also retired their A380s but faced a similar problem with their upper classes, being very much criticized, not just by reviewers but also the general public that were not happy, as when you've got airlines like Emirates and Singapore and many more that are taking it up a notch with their cabin products, it's hard to not see why that these products with, say, Air France and China Southern respectively, no matter the reasoning, were very much openly critiqued and therefore resulted in passengers that maybe had the possibility to fly on these airlines doing everything possible to get in a better product and truly get their money's worth. There generally seemed to be a lack of understanding for passenger desires on the part of China Southern, which can naturally be very difficult to do, but it's always important to understand your target market. Retired last month, the departure of the remaining A380s that were in storage during the pandemic certainly did not come as a shock, and as you may imagine, harbours many long-term benefits for the airline. Alongside several reasons listed above, it would be wrong of me not to mention the current conditions in China and both Asia. This has been one of the last markets in the aviation sector to recover, and it would be naive of me to even say that it has fully recovered, with many areas still being hit very hard. This has been thanks to the continued restrictions and the difficulty to move people in and out freely like most other countries are experiencing. A luxury that many of us took for granted. Nevertheless, the inability to fill pretty standard wide-body aircraft that span only across a single deck and not on many routes even being made possible means that having such a plane like the A380 does incur difficulties, and that means for China Southern, having these continue on their books isn't all that worth it, as I'm sure you'd be able to imagine. China Southern, through the retirement of the world's largest passenger plane, the A380, will save money as well, it must be said. As I noted earlier regarding the cabin, the only solution is to strip the aircraft and revamp it from top to bottom. And sure, the end result would no doubt be a lovely aircraft that would definitely be desirable to fly on. But also, the other reality is this solution to strip the aircraft from top to bottom is a costly one, and a massive investment as a business. If the profits aren't there, and this is a poor business decision, no doubt if China Southern invested, well, they wouldn't see the rewards that maybe, say, Dubai-based Emirates or another airline would. Removing the aircraft and flying with a more streamlined operation is, for them, truly the way forward. And it's unfortunate to see another Airbus A380 depart carriers around the world, but as I like to say, it is better the aircraft than the airline. And if this is a decision that keeps them afloat and can lead to potentially more profitable operations once their market recovers, then so be it. The China Southern A380 will live on far longer in the memories of many that had the opportunity to plane spot it, fly it, and much more. Unfortunately though, for China Southern, there are frankly far too many issues if they were to continue flying it, with arguably one of the biggest right now being that overhaul of the cabin that would cost tens of millions per aircraft. Very important to remember. Or they can save those costs and simply streamline and retire an aircraft that never truly did all that well for them. They ultimately, though, are going against a current trend that we are witnessing that has only resurged in the past couple of weeks and months, seeing some airlines around the world reactivate their A380s thanks to increased demand in their respective market. But those two last words definitely in the sentence ring home: increased demand. The reality is, while the Asian and Chinese markets are steadily growing back, there are still very persisting issues, and they're lagging behind. The increased demand that they're seeing is so minimal that keeping or reactivating such a plane that already causes issues isn't generally worth their time. And what are your thoughts? Do you believe China Southern retiring the Airbus A380 was a good business decision? And will you miss the aircraft with the airline? You can let us know down below in the comments. Do make sure to subscribe if you are new and leave a like on the video. Any support is of course greatly appreciated. Take care and be safe, and I will see you next time.